Thanks for tuning in to Americana Music Profiles. It's Season 3, brought to you by Americana Rhythm Music Magazine in print and AmericanaMusicMagazine.com online. I'm your host, Greg Tutwiler. Let's join in on another great conversation with one of the Americana music industry's super talented artists. Eric Lindberg and Doni Zasloff make up the New York-based NeFesh Mountain Bluegrass band. They created it in celebration of the foundational roots of music and traditions, not only from the heritage of the folks who settled the mountainous regions of the United States, but also the rich Jewish culture they live in. Eric is my guest on this edition of Americana Music Profiles. Hi, Eric. Welcome to the podcast this afternoon.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Appreciate you taking my call. So you guys are reading through some of the liner notes. You guys are native New Yorkers, if I understand that correctly. Is that where you're based at now?
We're based out of New York. My wife, Doni, and I, who are the brainchild, and we started the band NeFesh Mountain. We live in North Jersey, actually, and but I'm from Brooklyn, and Doni's from New York, and our other two touring band members live in Brooklyn right now, so it's easier when we travel just to say the New York area.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay.
And we still feel like native New Yorkers in our hearts too.
So
yeah.
Is NeFesh Mountain a place, or tell me how you came about that name?
So NeFesh Mountain is we've been calling it a place, but it is just a more metaphorical place in our hearts and kind of in our ethos as a band. But nefesh is a Hebrew word, and it's one of three main words that loosely translates to soul.
Oh, cool. Okay.
There's a couple other Hebrew words as well, but nefesh is one that I've seen definitions of it that it's like the soul or the animated spirit of something.
Yeah.
And I think that to me I've always, my whole life, I've been drawn to not only music but books and poetry that is almost this kind of reimagining of nature coming alive.
Yeah.
And to me, the Hebrew word for soul mixed with the English word mountain, it seemed like a universal name that also kind of ends up being a place in our lives when we play music from our own music. It feels like we go to that place.
Yeah, that's very cool. And again, when I was looking at the notes before we got on the call, you guys are fairly heavily involved in Jewish music too, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we are. For sure.
Which obviously describes the marriage between those two words. How did you? Seems like an odd combination: bluegrass music and ethnic Jewish music. How do they cross over for you guys, or do they?
They do, for me, absolutely. And you know what? I mean, it definitely, on paper, it seems like an odd combination, but, it's a long story for how Doni and I both came to get to where we are right now, playing this music and the music that we write. But the bottom line over all of it is, or under all of it rather, is that we're Americans, and I grew up, and my wife Doni as well, we grew up in this country and feeling very soulful about the music indigenous to this country. So that's, starting from old time music, music from the Civil War era and before it, and moving through the ages with the African influence and the music of the some of the unfortunate times, the slave music that was happening in this country, mixed with the Scotch-Irish traditions and this whole melting pot thing that became Americana now. I feel really drawn and spiritual, just musically, about that form. And so as an American, I feel like that's where my home is, in that sound, and all the music that's ever made me cry or love or kind of just rejoice in being alive through music has been in that kind of territory. And I even include jazz and blues and all of these forms that came out of American music. I think somewhere along the line, it must have been some sort of kind of a record label or whoever's defining the genres of music these days.
Right.
At some point made a decision that klezmer would be the only music associated with Jewish people.
Uh-huh.
But I think that's a misconception and one that to me doesn't hold any water, because I like klezmer music, but I don't listen to it. And,
right.
Although some of my distant family may have come from Eastern Europe, it's not where I'm from, so I just don't relate to it in that way.
Sure.
So I think when you get past all of these levels of the onion, so to speak, and you kind of get down to the core, it's actually not weird to play Jewish bluegrass in quotes, because it's just something that is me,
right.
and it is my wife. And when we realized this, I think we just realized that we were just being ourselves, more than anything.
Yeah,
so,
that's cool.
So that's a long-winded answer to the Jewish bluegrass question.
Do you get the opportunity when you perform to encapsulate that in some way, to let your audiences let them in on a piece of that story that you just shared? Is that part of your show at all?
It is part of the show. Yeah, we both talk a lot on stage. And there are certain songs that need no introduction. Maybe they're a bluegrass cover that people might know, or maybe for a Jewish crowd, maybe they're a prayer that they might know already. But for the most part, we do give a lot of context and insight into where we're coming from, because I think it does need to be not necessarily explained, but just talked about. And people are eager to talk about it. We've come to realize over our time doing this that people really, whether they're Jewish or not Jewish, are really eager to get down and just talk about what this all means,
Right.
And whether they had a preconception of who a Jew was, or what a Jew believed in, or, any kind of preconceived notion of any types of people or ethnicities. I think it's a conversation, especially now, that people of a certain mind want to talk about, there being more equality and peace for all people in this country and in the world.
You alluded a few minutes ago to the story of you guys getting together as kind of a long story. Can you give me a nutshell version of how you and Doni got connected in this journey together of music?
Yeah, well, I'm actually referring to the long story of kind of just our lives before meeting each other and after.
Okay, sure.
And something I do talk about on stage too is that my father converted to Judaism from my mother. So I have half of my family who lives in Georgia, in beautiful, not Atlanta, just a more rural part of Georgia.
Okay.
I have family down there, and I used to go there as a kid and hike the Appalachian Trail and really kind of feel immersed in like the heartland of Americana for me, and I was always really drawn to that as a kid. And of course, at the time, I was also listening to Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner, and I just, that Southern thing, whatever it was, whether it was eating barbecue or there was something about it that I was just drawn to.
Yeah.
And Doni has the same thing. And then we met playing music, and it was we have a very special symbiotic relationship and very yin yang kind of thing between her and I, because any success that we've had just for ourselves, if we've written a song that we like, that there's a nature of it that we couldn't have done it without the other person, and whatever we bring to that is to this common ground that is NeFesh Mountain is really a kind of a sacred space that we have to trust each other and let each other fly and do all that stuff. So over the years, she's opened my eyes to things that are important, not only in music but in life, and I'd like to think I did the same on the other way around.
Sure, yeah.
But I'm the guy, so it's
right, yeah. Were you guys playing this style of music when you met, or was this what you're doing now? Did this come out of the two of you coming together?
It definitely came out of us getting together, of us falling in love over the years. but no, we didn't play bluegrass. But we both always loved bluegrass music, and I've been playing. Although I studied jazz in college and played a lot of rock and roll gigs, and as a musician, you try to play as many different things as you can, especially in the New York area. But I always loved bluegrass, and always felt closest to it in terms of that's where my heart always belongs in this acoustic, very loving form. I think whenever I listened to any of my heroes, I just felt love through the speakers and into my ears. It just always felt like pure honesty, just people that were on the same mission. So something about it. It grabbed me from a young age, and through all the years of playing, it was always my dream. And now we're living the dream, being able to do that, play bluegrass, and involve some of our own faith as people as well.
Right.
And I'll add that this isn't necessarily religious music, and certainly a lot of it, some of our themes come from the Jewish tradition in a religious way, but Donnie and I feel as our heritage and as our background, really, we're celebrating kind of the themes, some being religious, but overall just the themes of our heritage, of our people, of our story as Jews through the years.
Okay.
So
is that predominantly the audience that you perform to, or do you get way outside of that? What does it look like when you guys are out as NeFesh, as the band, and who you're playing to?
We perform to. We're a relatively young band now. In the early 2018, we've been around for about 3 years.
Okay,
and we have a lot of connections, and we know a lot of people in the Jewish world at synagogues and in Jewish communities, other Jewish musicians throughout the country, and beyond. And so we're lucky to be successful in this world, and we're also playing to non-Jewish audiences as well. Okay. So the best answer is that we're trying to figure it out, because we're open to just, to me, the music functions on any on any level of just music, but it also functions as where we come in and lead Shabbat services, and we help do community programs, and we do workshops, and we come into synagogues for weekends at a time. So we kind of are doing anything and everything right now.
Yeah. Okay.
And playing to all audiences for sure.
Do you guys get to perform at some of the more traditional-minded festivals? Have you been able to push out into that, especially down towards the southern part of the United States? Do you get to do those?
Yeah, well, we're going to be. We're hoping to be. We've had the chance to meet a lot of festival promoters and talent buyers in the Bluegrass Festival world, and all of which are just the nicest people ever. And some of them we can definitely call our friends now, and they're familiar faces when we show up at a conference like the IBMA.
Right.
So we're hoping to be on some festivals for the 2019 season.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's something in the works for that. There's a few options on the table, and we're just it would be a thrill to take our music and our love of not only bluegrass but of our faith and our heritage, and bring that to the secular scene that is the Bluegrass Festival. There's nothing better than those. So
right.
Yeah, that's hopefully coming soon.
And you mentioned fairly young band. You've got a new album out, Beneath the Open Sky. Do I have that right? Is that correct?
You got it. Yeah.
And is this number 2, number 3? What does this make? What album is this for you?
This is number 2.
Okay.
Number 2.
Yeah. So let's talk about that a little bit. Tell me, did it just out, right?
Just out. Yep, 1 week ago.
Okay.
Came out.
Yeah. All right.
It's
great.
March 9th today. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we recorded the record in 2017 down in Nashville with some of our friends that are down there, and we've been fortunate to have, like I said, in a very short period of time, have some really awesome people that have spoken out for us and who have gotten on our side